Hello and welcome to episode 222 of our SAP on Azure Video Podcast. Today is December 17th, and together with Robert and Goran, we are here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So this is our last episode in 2024. We will go on a short holiday break and plan to be back in the second week of January. So like in the last 4 years, actually, so in 2022, 21, 22, 23, 2020 was the first one. We are very honored to have Jürgen Thomas back with us on our show to wrap up this year 2024. So Jürgen, first of all, thank you so much. Welcome to our show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, maybe for those of our viewers who have not seen you in the last 4 years, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself, and then I'm looking forward to our view back to this year.
Yeah. My name is Jürgen Thomas. I'm with Microsoft for nearly 29 years. All the 29 years I've been working with Microsoft. I was working with SAP as a partner, as a customer as well. And so these days I'm leading a larger team that is worldwide spread. I'm in Azure core development. So all the folks that do Azure Compute, Azure Networking, Azure Storage. And our team is basically developing the deployment architectures of S/4HANA and NetWeaver onto Azure, but also helping SAP to run their SaaS services and RISE on Azure. So
this is so cool. And actually, I mean, you just said running a larger team, and I actually just so when I prepared for the session today, I looked at one of our internal channels that we have where the SAP community is collaborating, exchanging, and we have one community with over 500 members here. So all Microsoft internal folks that work with SAP, and we have even it's called connected community with even more, I think almost 900 folks that are there. So I think what you started like 29 years ago with just running SAP on SQL and everything, that grew to something absolutely amazing within Microsoft.
Yeah, it grew dramatically big. And I think the key thing certainly was the Azure coming as an infrastructure, as a viable and suitable infrastructure to run SAP on our infrastructure, as a service, which wasn't always the case. I mean, thinking back in 2014, my team also only was 6 people. Today we are 5 times that. And the VMs that we were running at a point in time were super small. I mean, you know, somewhere in the 16 CPUs, having somewhere in the 64 gigabyte or something like that. We were super proud having then a VM with 32 CPUs and what was it, 400 something gigabyte of memory.
The Godzilla, the G series, I think at that time.
Yeah, the G series, exactly. We were proud of. AWS for a few months didn't have something competing with that one, and then it accelerated dramatically in all dimensions. I mean, when we look at it, what happened in these 8-9 years since 2016-17, storage became dramatically faster. I still recall as we introduced Premium Storage V1. We measured latencies of 3, 4, 5 milliseconds. Today, you're like, well, how can I use a storage that is not 1 point something or even 0 point something, and which today is Premium Storage V1. So we successfully improved the latency. We improved the whole stack. Certainly underlying hardware changed dramatically with faster, newer processors, faster disks and everything. But on the other side, certainly the VMs did improve. The hardware that we deliberately integrated into our fleet first became a 4-socket. We could cover 4 terabyte, then we marched into 8-socket hardware that we integrated into a fleet of hundreds and thousands and millions of 2-socket nodes, and adapted the same operational principles into it as we did with the smaller hardware And then at the end in 2020, where we really did last step in the 24 terabyte and these days 32 terabyte space, where we said, hey, look, there are these super large customers out there that not only need the memory, but also need the CPU performance to it. And so we integrated the 16 socket hardware into our fleet. Certainly not in the thousands and tens thousands of nodes. Certainly a little bit more sparsely, also with the regions that we are covering it sparsely, but nevertheless very successful. No doubt about it. Successful in RISE, but also in what we call the native customers that are deploying outside RISE using a partner, do it on their own. Very large customers actually doing that. And so literally where we did hit the right timing was very good in terms of placing it. And where we now have a subsequent successor platform, as some people might know, Intel did release a new processor family last year. They called it Sapphire Rapids. And for us, that was a new platform that we placed our M series version 3 families on it, of which we have three families, one a smaller one, smallest relative these days. When you think about HANA, we talk about 4 terabyte as VMs with 4 terabyte memory as the smaller ones. Would have never thought about something like that, or calling a VM with 4 terabytes smaller one 10 years ago. That would have been like the huge thing. Then our high memory that is covering these days 6 to 16 terabyte memory, and certainly proportionally the CPU performance as well. So you get a 16 terabyte with 832 vCPUs and more than 1.2 million subs, which is quite dramatic when you think about it. You're wondering how can need that also. Yes, but we indeed have customers that are running S4HANA and where 832 CPUs are very, very busy. Also, the fact that we think that comes through the changes in S4HANA, where certain logic is really getting pushed down into the database, into HANA, into coding that is running in HANA, and the database not being a stupid data container anymore that is getting asked, give me this line out of the order, header table, give me the positions for that order, but really doing running some other logic. And then then our very high memory, not very imaginative, the third subfamily in our MB3, the very high memory at this point in time, the 32 terabyte, and very soon following with a 24 terabyte successor as well. I do admit it was a little bit, we missed, we have a gap right now that we are going to close in the next few months. And it unfortunately opened a little bit this gap. And so we also are finishing our scale out, 32 terabyte scale out S4HANA tests very soon. So all larger work that we did throughout this year to get that whole MV3 family, all the 3 subfamilies out successfully, and GA with SAP, again, in various stages, then eventually in the certification, especially when you think about the OLTP or the S4HANA scale out, which is a very complex thing from the get-go. BW for HANA scale out is mostly done already. I think is completely done in those families. So we had a busy year. Customer success as well. We're happy with a lot of customer successes. We certainly had our ups and downs again, unfortunately, related to some outages with a little bit larger blast radius that we encountered, unfortunately. Things that kept us very busy, and things where we really really seriously stepped into and put a lot of resources, invested a lot of resources into that space as well. The spaces we identified that caused these issues,
Mm-hmm.
and really this really invested people and into these things, analyzing, changing workbooks, changing process flows, changing the way how we monitor things around our data centers, changing the way how instructions are and manuals are written and need to be followed. So a lot of activities there, but also on our side, when we usually look into, you always have these things with larger blast radius, often out of the hands of our team or outside things that might happen as well. But then when we look down on each and individual VMs, customers are expecting that these are showing high reliability, especially in the space that we are with these larger VMs, because they're not restarting within a minute. If you have 32 terabytes, so that it always takes a little bit longer. And so the single VM reliability is also a steady investment, where we steadily have our telemetry analyzed, where we steadily look into each and especially with the larger VMs, in each and every one of the restarts or that would have been unexpected, and trying to figure out what it was, and then fix accordingly.
Yeah,
Especially
actually,
now.
yeah, I know, Jürgen. I mean, you're running, or we are running in canary environment, meaning the new hardware, new stacks, all the tests, and trying to find all the issue which might reflect the SAP itself, and then also trying to correct on a time.
Well, it's not only the canary environment. We in steps further. We have what we call the safe deployment process in rolling out changes, and we are not running only some complete SAP S/4HANA systems with I don't know, 8-9 application VMs in the application layer. Complete pacemaker setup with HANA. We're not only running it in Canary, we are also running it in some of our pilot regions. These are in the safe deployment process, the first regions that where we have customers running their workload, and where we also have complete S/4HANA systems that we are steadily running, that are steadily up and running, and are hooked up into a test framework, so that as we encounter changes there, changes in KPIs, eventually even a pacemaker failover, that immediately messages are getting filed against development to investigate. So that, and indeed, we did catch some changes that slipped through Canary, made it into the pilot region, but there we found them with our environment, and we could stop the further deployment of it and fixing of it. So that's an important step that we took. Besides all the other testing that we are doing, all the other testing, meaning running the certification tests and running them to tune the hardware as well, especially when we talk about the large hardware, 8-socket, 16-socket hardware. You do a lot of testing on them, and try to optimize together with obviously with the 16-socket. There's a very hardware partner behind it that has a great reputation in the SAP space as well. So we are lining up together with them in trying to optimize the BIOS settings, exchange information about what we are seeing in a virtualized environment compared to the hardware partner, seeing their results on bare metal, and drawing certain conclusions on how to develop further, in which direction to optimize better. So yeah, great fruitful partnership we have with that hardware partner. So that is what we are running as well. But again, we need to, with our SAP stack, also check or find the other, find the regular or check on the regular changes that we are applying to our fleet. And so far so good. We are going to invest more next year as well. Also in analyzing telemetry, using AI, and doing a few other things so that we are getting faster and more precise to results, and can also from a KPI point of view go a little bit more narrow in seeing the deviation, having smaller deviations already raising flags. So
and I think it's definitely paying off already. I think when we look what happened throughout the year, I think it's definitely all these investments in quality, in telemetry, in testing, working closely with the partners. I think that is paying off. I mean, if I look in recent episodes, we had Abbas talking about the 32 a very successful implementation of the 32 terabyte virtual machines with the customer. Or just last week, I think we had Anbu talking about a 200 terabyte Oracle migration that they had, where they did a lot of optimization on the storage and obviously also again on the whole infrastructure, on reliability. So I think we can clearly see that all these investments really help our customers to run SAP on Azure.
Yeah, no doubt about. But you can always go further, and that also is one of the reasons why we also want to go further with next platforms that our processor partners are bringing, silicon partners are bringing onto the table. Intel on the one side, AMD on the other side, because you always get the chance as well then to modify your complete hardware stack again, build in more resiliency, build in more redundancy into the hardware stack in order to run these mission critical applications. So it's then also another area that we put a lot of investment in is Azure Boost, that took another version, or there's another version that we have in our 16 socket that gives us more throughput, more offloading functionality, especially around networking and storage operations on that Azure Boost. Super important development also for our mission critical systems, because it's at the end going to make patching easier, because you always will have some patches that are coming in. They should not be disruptive at all. And so that's a chance where we can improve, and also from a reliability should improve a bit, but really performance as well, because let's be pretty clear, especially between the processor platforms that we dealt with 5 years ago and that we introduced 5 years ago, and now a huge difference, and we see that the thing is, we are seeing that the CPU performance is being used. When I look back 6 years back, it was always like, oh, I need a larger hardware because I need more memory, but I don't use the CPU. This is not the case today anymore. It is really like we have literally customers that have our 24 terabyte VM that is on the older platform. That's the Cascade Lake platform of Intel. And these things are humming with 80% CPU load for hours in a row. And so the more on CPU power, or the more a single CPU or single CPU core can deliver with the Sapphire Rapids platform is highly welcome. And so that's where we are not discarding, and we are not leaning back and say, hey, look, there's enough CPU power there. We see customers are eating it up. And especially then the faster core or the currently new cores of Sapphire Rapids, they are showing more throughput on a single core. So the execution of the instructions is more efficient, which is also helping in the database space quite a bit. Where you have concurrent.
Are you seeing this on HANA or also other databases as well?
Also other databases, no doubt about other databases as well. Well, let's put it that way. Other databases not, especially with let's say with SAP workload, with other databases, we are seeing it not as drastically.
Yeah.
But on other databases, the load always was good in a sense because you were not driven as much by the memory and the ratio between memory and CPU.
Mm-hmm.
You did align usually way better with the CPU, or you took CPU as one of the CPU consumption of your database more as the guiding principle.
Yeah.
Where you said, okay, you know what, if I do 120 vCPU or a 200 or 400 vCPU machine, well, then I put 6 terabyte into it or 4 terabyte into it. And so whereas in HANA, it was always that your guiding principle to a larger degree
the memory,
was and is your memory. At least it needs to fit in the first place. And then you can argue, look, is the CPU sufficient or not? So it's a little bit differently with other databases. But nevertheless, it's an interesting thing. What we also succeeded now in November of doing and trying to get this new VM family into our OSS node 192.8533. At Ignite, we released our new AMD base or AMD-based VM series for D series, E series, our version 6. And the interesting part there, we introduced a new VM family called FA version 6. And FA version 6 is not using SMT, the AMD kind of hyper-threading. So what we have on that one is that the pure core performance is mapped into a vCPU, and that's quite stunning because you're ending up with 2,600 subs on a single vCPU compared to what you had in the V5 of around, what was it, 1,500 or 1,600 subs. With the SMT, with the hyper-threading. So also the hyper-threaded DAV6, EAV6 are around 2,000 subs per vCPU, but 2,600 is quite nice. And then also some customers interested in it, especially for some application layer. Really having some fast VCP or some fast application layer, as there is eventually some batch jobs that do a little bit more processing on the application layer side, which they want to speed up. And so that's the FA series is an easy one to do that. You don't need to disable hyper-threading or do anything like that. It comes up to 64 vCPUs. So pretty capable thing. As mentioned, we don't have it yet in the node. We are working on it to get it into the node, restructuring the node in the process as well a little bit. So latest next year it should be in. Certified it is, and so yeah, it's an interesting, very interesting one as well.
Mm-hmm. So mainly for the application layer. So my database I still run on E series or an M series. Yeah. But for the application servers, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I believe on AMD the price per subs ratio is quite good. So what you pay and how much subs you get, it's quite.
Yeah. I just calculated it as well, and the price performance ratio is indeed the best as we see it. It is definitely around what I see around 10% better than everything else we have out. and so can be very attractive for customers. Absolutely, yeah, true. We also we especially now, the next half year, we are trying to get the necessary hardware into the necessary regions as usual. I mean, it's we are looking into the larger regions first, no doubt about it. We need to see that we are getting it all across different availability zones, and so yeah, that's the plans with AMD. The other interesting part is certainly to note that we are retrofitting a few regions with zones as well, or we did that. Australia East was done like that. Japan West was retrofitted with zones, and so come the second half next year, we also should be able to have our M series in those regions in those two regions across different zones. In Europe, especially, we are strengthening our Germany West Central region with hardware to run largest M series as well. It's something that until summer next year, we should have a full and complete set of hardware in Germany West Central as well to run up to 32 terabyte as well. That's certainly something where we then have with Sweden Central, Germany West Central, and then
very strong presence.
One regions with West Europe and Northern Europe have 4 European locations where we have the full stack, so to speak, there, and also so that we can distribute a little bit better amongst these 4 different regions. We see a lot of demand for Germany West Central in specific, in all honesty, and then we also will invest more of our M series hardware up to 16 terabyte into Spain Central and North, in order to again to get a better distribution across Europe, also with a lot of Southern European customers, of which they are quite a large number actually.
Yeah. That's really cool, and I think that's actually something that, I mean, when we look back a year ago, basically, where obviously we had a very strong presence in several regions across the world, but there went a lot of effort into, as you said, enabling additional zones, enabling completely new regions with SAP certified virtual machines, so that customers in these regions can leverage their SAP systems there. So,
Also with RISE, it's also welcome. Usually with RISE as well, we have quite a large number of regions where RISE is deployed, which is definitely something that we'd like to continue. And so, it's also an interesting challenge, obviously.
When you mentioned the RISE, I'm just thinking one thing which was a bit surprise to me, a positive. I mean, that we introduced also the SQL Server system hosting on our announced. In RISE, I would never say. I mean, S/4HANA is no brainer, of course, that's clear. Which we fully support, but it's an interesting also.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear about that project as well. I mean, it's not the fact that under the umbrella of RISE, one offers customers to move in with their Windows and SQL Server NetWeaver applications, obviously, doesn't mean that any one of the dates that SAP published about NetWeaver going out of mainstream maintenance into extended maintenance, and at the end of 2030, I think it is, finishing extended maintenance. That doesn't change anything on those. These rules, these timelines remain also for those NetWeaver systems that are administrated with RISE. The idea is simple, to kind of make it easier for the customer take a little bit the angst of the big step of saying, hey, now here I'm with my NetWeaver, now I go RISE with S/4HANA, completely different word.
Yeah.
Managed service by RISE is new to me. S/4HANA is new to me. So let's stagger that a little bit and have, well, let's get used to the managed service of RISE with the existing system without the customer now also facing a business process transformation or transformation to S/4HANA, how less or how more complex that is for the individual customer. And so we came then, there are more stages, so to speak, in that. And that is helping. We hope that helps customers to lose a little bit the angst and really step forward and really start to do the steps now, because hey, we are talking end of 2024. Not that we want to make panic, but it is 3 years from now that the mainstream maintenance for NetWeaver is ending up, and when we look around, I mean, the three of us, we have enough customers that we are talking to. There's enough NetWeaver out there, and a lot of very complex business processes. So, and it's 3 years left.
And I think in these scenarios, a lift and shift is obviously always much easier. So potentially that is a good step. And then ideally it frees me up. So if I'm the company, then I can already hand over a lot of things to SAP, and hopefully that enables me then to really work on the actual conversion from ECC to S/4HANA. So I think it's a great approach, and let's hope that we can help customers there to more quickly end up then with the S/4HANA systems in RISE.
Yeah, the program went onto the price list at the 1st of October with SAP. So I guess in January we'll look at it, how successful the quarter was in selling the opportunities, and then hopefully start deploying as we hopefully got some customers into the program. And from my side, I will have people involved again out of my team, specifically for this project, people that work for me since decades to a degree, and who are very super experienced in the Windows SQL Server space, but also meanwhile in the Linux HANA space, and who know RISE as well. So we assigned additional people out, or I assigned additional people out of my team into that program. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it, to see how successful the sales was, and then how we can deploy, and how good our preparations were in terms of defining the picture. Well, it's always like, look, you might, as much as you test, as much as you go through it, there always might be some things where an edge case that you didn't consider, but we feel that we are well prepared together with SAP for this project.
Absolutely. I was actually also attending Ignite, for example, and there we had a session, or Nestle had a session together with Uli Hohmann, where they talked about their experiences migrating to RISE. And yes, there was a lot of things were prepared, but then there were also some lessons learned during this migration. And I guess with the first customer, we will also learn. And the good thing is, I mean, we have the experts, like you said, that have been working with you on these topics for decades. So the knowledge is there, and we just need to make sure that we can implement it in the right way in the RISE context there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the key thing for projects like Nestle, as Uli was on the stage with Ralf Hübenthal from Nestle. It's a lot of being open and honest between the partners and the customers.
Exactly.
I mean, I was leading from our side the Nestle project as well, the RISE project, or at that point in time, HEC project, and become RISE project with Nestle. And the secret sauce here clearly was the governance of by all the three parties, Nestle, SAP, and us. The open and honesty we had with each other, and the decision making that we did, that we were all empowered to make decisions fast.
Yeah.
And that was clearly the secret here, and we wanted to apply the same as well to the Windows secret.
Yeah.
One where we wanna have a similar setup here, so that we can make decisions fast, and do the necessary changes fast. And I think from the people we have involved on the SAP side, on our side, should be pretty good, and we really look forward to work with those customers who are interested.
Fantastic.
Yeah, cool. What else did we do this year? Well, storage-wise, we did some advances in some of the areas. Premium Storage V2 definitely became a little bit more in the foreground, or moved more in the foreground as a more efficient storage. No doubt about it. There are some features or tool functionalities. One should now be as good as solved, but another one that could be a little bit restrictive still for some of the customer case, not for all of the customers, but really some of the customers. But no, we are pretty happy with the success of Premium Storage V2 as it slowly ramps up. We had a chance to adjust our documentation around it as well a little bit. Premium Storage V1 is still kind of the bread and butter thing going on a little bit, but we do see customers moving or deciding for Premium Storage V2 as the more cost-efficient one. Eventually, all the one. And this is this funny thing where we thought on the smaller systems, customers would not use logical volume manager like LVM, because they could all have HANA data, for example, in one volume that has a gigabyte throughput and has whatever, a few 10,000 IOPS eventually. But the reality is that most of the customers actually are still continuing to do LVM because it's giving them more flexibility and eventually extending as the system grows. Yeah. So that is one of the learnings that we certainly had. And goes very well. We see that we have a new architecture that involves, especially for the large systems where we are combining Azure NetApp files for HANA data with Premium Storage V1, with Write Accelerator for the HANA log, also very successfully deployed in some of our 24 terabyte and 32 terabyte customers. Very, very successful then as well on how you do snapshot backups using AC Snap, moving the backup into Azure Blob, very seamless, and a strong story there is certainly the restore from a backup, which is super fast on the NetApp side. I mean, no doubt about it. So that's a very interesting architecture that we started to deploy beginning of the year with some of our customers, or end of last year. And then on the other side, on the application layer, when we look into NFS shares that, with a 2 milliseconds latency or something like that, the continued success in our main regions with Azure Premium Files and zonal replication, so that we have a transparent failover happening if storage in one of the zones is not responding, so that you can get it out of the replica out of the other zone. So works very well. Works very well. And then on the other hand, I mean, live migration for us as thing. We live migrated over the last half year millions of virtual machines, because on our machines that are running E-Series, D-Series, we had to apply a new BIOS version that required a restart of the compute hosts. And we literally millions of VMs that we live migrated to free up hosts
Cool.
to restart, to apply the BIOS, to restart the host. It all went fine. I mean, it all went great, and so that also is giving us or showing that we are definitely on a path here. And also in M series, we are now able to live migrate 90% of our deployed M series without customer disruption. Sure, it is without 12 terabyte under full load, and so it's we are not there yet, but the bread and butter we are covering, and so also progress we made there over the last year, or good progress we made there over the last year. So I want to come over super satisfied and we are all done. No, there's work to be done. You always can get better, but it is that looking back, we made progress in the right corners, and certainly in the right directions in some areas, and definitely see that it makes life for our customers easier, and that the customer experience overall is improving, because it's all about the customer experience here.
Yes.
And that's actually, I still remember several years ago when we started, we should introduce live migration with these bigger virtual machines. And now you're just mentioning, millions of virtual machines were live migrated because of this BIOS updates. So I think this is also absolutely amazing to see what happened over all these years. That at first it was a goal, let's do it, and now it's natural operations.
It became natural operations. That's what our customers expect. And that's exactly what infrastructure as a service should look like.
And I mean, it brings improved dramatically the uptime of the VMs, meaning the SAP system indirectly, because there is no, and that's crucial. I mean, just any kind of downtime, it can be
Oh, look, I'm also the first to acknowledge that there's still room for improvement, and that we are continuously working on it. It's just an example where live migration, where it helps us in these spaces where we need to patch some of our hosts. And when we are not taking it easy to patch a BIOS, we don't do that because of some funny reasons. Usually when we do such drastic things where we need to move around millions of VMs, then the BIOS or the upgrade that we are doing to that host is improving reliability, is giving us chances based on extended telemetry to get better root causes, to eliminate things that impact the reliability. That is why we are driving these things forward. And so there's a steady drive to improve the experience and to improve to help us to make things more reliable. And that's the whole key here.
Absolutely,
And all the functionalities, when I look at the next hypervisor version, when I look into what we are patching on the hypervisor version, what we are adding, it's all about making the customer experience better, getting reliability, the availability of the VMs improved, and so that we can do more operations, we can do more changes without impacting the availability of the VM, or we get more and better telemetry, more reliable telemetry to analyze issues that are still coming up, and improve those issues then, and fix those issues then. And so that's the main brunt what changes are about.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, great. Jürgen, I think you covered beautifully a lot of things that where we have made a lot of improvements over the years. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of things that we did then on top and on the higher levels, like on the whole AI side, on the authentication and stuff like that with Entra ID. But it's great to see all the things that ideally run under the hood, basically. So I'm the customer. I just want to run my SAP system, and you can clearly see that Microsoft is investing and doing a lot of improvements in all these areas.
It never stops. I mean, let's be clear, it never will stop. We always will chase down things. We always want to improve. We always want to get better in availability, in reliability, in being able to operate our systems with lesser impact to the availability of customers. So it never stops. It's not that we are sitting down at a point in time and say, hey, look, we think we are done here. No, the opposite. What we are seeing, especially in our team, as we look into it, as we are engaged in what M Series is, what SAP S/4HANA is on M Series, how our customers are using M Series VMs. The opposite's the case. We are steadily trying to figure out how can we get better there. What was this issue about? How can we prevent that issue? And have a lot of partner teams involved. And so that's the important thing. And then you also see that things are getting more complex, obviously. Well, I mean, if you have a server with 1,920 logical processes, it's a different caliber to work
Absolutely.
with, to operate, to analyze telemetry, to find things, or even to do tests on, because your setup is dramatically larger than if I have a little VM with a terabyte. And so it takes more time, it takes more resources that we are glad to invest to get to a satisfied customer, and customers that are happy with the choices they made on Azure, for Azure.
Yeah. No, but I like this. It never stops. So there's continuously things added and enhanced and improved, and I'm sure we will exactly what you said, do the same thing in 2025. We will continue to invest. We will continue to improve. Absolutely. And I think actually that's a well, this episode would stop, but the investments this will never stop. So I think maybe that's a nice closing.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Well, cool. So Jürgen, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Wish everybody of the listeners a great holiday season, and after the holidays, a great start into the new year.
Thank you so much. Yeah, same from us. And we'll look forward for next year. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.